Okay, class has begun. Welcome to the engineering class for September 2nd. Before I start into the material, let me just open up to any questions about last night's homework, about how the class runs, about anything at all. Does anybody have any questions? You can type it into the chat box if you want, or you can unmute yourself and speak if you want. Not hearing anything? Okay, I'll assume there's no questions. Then let's talk about last night's homework. So I looked at the assignments that you guys turned in as of last night. I just do one thing real quick here. Somebody just joined here. Okay. All right. So as of last night, the assignments that I looked at, most of them were okay. A few of them I thought were really well done. Some of you wrote out nice full sentences, well-organized paragraphs, and you were very thorough in describing that everything that needed to be done. Others of you just did it in bullet points, which I told you was okay, so I didn't dock you for doing that. But when I read the bullet point submissions and I compared them to the ones where people wrote full paragraphs, wow, there was a big difference there. So the ones with the full paragraphs were so much better, easier to read, much more information. So in the future, I think I'm going to tighten up my requirements. I'm going to say that you do need to do full sentences and paragraphs, no more of the bullet points. But like I said, since I told you it was okay last time, I won't dock you for it this time. A few of the submissions were pretty weak. They just did not have even half of the requirements that we had discussed in class. You didn't capture all the requirements. And one of you, what you submitted was a definition of what a functional spec is. You know, a functional specification is a document that includes, you know, the requirements, blah, blah, blah. But you never said anything about the job that I wanted you to do, the airplane. You know, what is the job that the airplane had to do? What are the constraints on how you can build this airplane, how you test this airplane? You didn't talk about any of that. You just had some generic description of what a functional specification is. So yeah, I couldn't give you credit for that. Please get this in mind. Now, for your final report for this project, I am going to require that the final report has to include the functional specification. Even though you've already submitted it once, I'm going to make you submit it a second time. And when you submit it the second time, I am raising the bar. Okay, no more of these bullet points. I want to see sentences and paragraphs when you write up your final report. But we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Okay, so let's just remind everybody what the requirements were. Would somebody be willing to unmute themselves? And you can turn on the camera if you want, or you can leave the camera off, but somebody unmute yourselves and describe to us what are the requirements? What are the things that the plane has to do? What are the requirements for how the plane is made, and what are the requirements for how the plane is going to be tested? And if nobody speaks up, then I'm going to volunteer somebody. How about Ahmed? Would you be willing to speak up?
So the plane is you're supposed to build the airplane and throw it about, I think you said it has to be able to reach 5 feet.
15.
And
15 feet.
15, my bad. 15 feet. And you're supposed to record a video of you doing it, and then somebody has to record it for you. I think
That's certainly part of what you need to do, but only part. Can somebody else speak up and tell us what are the parts that he left out?
We're supposed to define the problem in the in what we're in the homework that was due just now. We were supposed to write about how defining the problems that we have to go through to make, or that we have to fix to be able to make a functional paper airplane
So tell
that
me
does
about
what
those. What are the things you have to do?
so we needed to um have a paper airplane that has wings. We can't just roll up the paper and throw it. Um, it has to reach 15 feet. It has to be as close. It has to be able to glide through the air as straight as possible and reach um the point at the end of the 15 feet as close as possible. Um, and yeah, that's all I remember.
Okay, let me correct one thing. Now, you said that the airplane needs to fly straight. I never said that the airplane needed to fly straight. All I said is that the airplane needs to land near the quarter. So if you have an airplane and every time you throw it, it curves to the right, I'm okay with that. So what would you do if that was the case? If your airplane curves to the right, well, where would you aim the airplane? You would aim it a little bit to the left. And so you throw it a little bit to the left and then it curves. And as long as it lands near the quarter, I don't care whether it flies straight or not. Okay. Now, obviously, it makes more sense if you could design an airplane to fly straight, but that was not one of the requirements. It has to land near the quarter. That's the important thing. Can anybody think of some requirements that I gave you that have not yet been discussed?
I can. You had to use a full sheet of standard printer paper.
8.5 by
Uh,
11.
yeah, you were able to cut it but not remove any parts of it.
Okay. All right. So you can cut slits in it if you want. That's fine. You just can't cut pieces out and throw the pieces away. You have to use all of the 8.5 by 11 sheet. Okay. Are you allowed to use tape or paper clips or staples or anything else?
No.
No, definitely not. All you're allowed is paper. Okay, you can cut it, but you can't staple it, can't paper clip it. All right, now, what about when the airplane lands, there's a good chance it might bounce. Okay, so when you measure the distance, do you measure from the quarter to where the airplane first hits, or do you measure from the quarter to where the airplane lands?
Where the airplane ends up.
Where the airplane ends up. Okay. All right, good. Now, when you measure to the airplane, where on the airplane do you measure? Are you going to measure to the edge of the airplane or the front end, the rear end? Where are you going to measure to?
The center of it.
The center of the airplane. So what I would recommend is after you've made your airplane, I would recommend that you take a pen or a pencil and mark a dot somewhere as close to the middle of the airplane as you can find, and then just always measure to that from the center of the quarter to that dot on the airplane. All right. Can anybody think of anything else that we talked about last time that hasn't been mentioned yet this time?
It should be thrown over level ground.
Okay, now that actually was not a requirement, but that certainly was a suggestion. Well, actually, I take that back. I think I did make it a requirement. Yeah, okay, sorry, it was a requirement. The thing that was a suggestion was whether you throw it inside or outside. If you want to do this outside, more power to you. I think you're going to find that if it's a windy day, you're not going to get very good results, and it's not the airplane's fault, it's the wind's fault. So in order to avoid that problem, I recommend that you do it inside, but I don't require it. If you want to do it outside, if it's not a windy day and you want to go outside, hey, fine, good for that. All right, I believe we have captured all of the requirements we talked about last time.
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you use anything other than your hand to propel the airplane?
Ah, that's an interesting question that didn't come up last time. Anything other than your hand to propel the airplane? Ah, interesting question. I'm going to say no. Um,
All right.
got to throw up by hand because I know you guys are creative geniuses, and if I allow that, you could probably come up with some really sneaky ways to cheat. And by the way, good for you on that. I encourage sneaky ways to cheat. You know, if I do a poor job of defining the rules and you can find some loophole, hey, go for it. That's my fault for doing a bad job designing the rules. But yeah, this time I'm saying, sorry, you got it. You have to throw up a hand. Okay. Now there is one change that I want to make today. That I thought about it some more after we ended class last time, and I thought that if I allow you to do 100 throws, and you just record and you record all 100 of them, but then you pick the best one and only submit the best one, it's probably not really a good way to test it. Probably not a realistic test. Okay, so here's a new requirement. You have to do whatever the video is that you submit has to be 3 consecutive throws. All right, and then so you're going to throw it once, measure the distance, throw it a second time, measure the distance, throw it a third time, measure the distance. You're going to videotape all of those, and it all has to be in one shot. You're not allowed to take 3 separate videos and edit them together. It has to be one continuous shot, 3 throws, and so you're going to make 3 measurements, come up with 3 distances, and you're going to tell me what those 3 distances are, and then also calculate the average, and the average is the one that's going to be used. And remember, there is going to be a prize. Whoever gets the airplane the closest gets a few bonus points. Not a whole lot of bonus points, but a few. You'll get a few bonus points for doing that. Okay, but it has to be the average of 3 throws, and your video needs to show all 3 throws, and they have to be 3 consecutive throws. All right, I think that'll make it a little bit more realistic. I think that's all we need to talk about for the functional specification. Those of you that submitted functional specifications, and if you didn't get a very good grade, I will allow you to go back and resubmit it. Going forward in the future, don't expect that I'm going to do this on every assignment, but on this particular assignment, I think I'll allow that. So if you want to go back and edit it, that's fine. Okay, so now we're on to the new stuff. Today, your job is to come up with an engineering specification. So what I'm hoping that you've done over the last 2 days is I'm hoping that you have done a little bit of research into different types of paper airplanes. I'm hoping that you've either gone on YouTube or just go in and Google paper airplane design, whatever. I don't care where you get it from. I'm hoping that you've done some research and that you have decided what type of paper airplane you want to make. And so your homework assignment for tonight is to write up an engineering specification. And remember that an engineering specification is a document that describes how you're going to do the job. And so in this case, it's going to be pretty simple. It should be a page that describes how you're going to make the airplane. And this needs to be very detailed. I want to see not just pictures, but I want to see words. And by the way, I do need to see pictures. They can be hand-drawn sketches if you want. That's okay. Some of you are going to say, well, it's easy to find pictures on the web. And I'll just take this picture from the web and I'll copy and paste it into my document. I don't know, should I allow that? What do you guys think? So type into the text here. Should I allow that, or should I make you draw your own by hand? If I don't see a lot of answers here, I'm going to make you draw it by hand. Okay, it looks like everybody's voting for me to allow it. Okay, I guess that's what I'll do. All right, so if you want to cut and paste a picture from or an illustration from the web and cut it into your document that shows how to fold it, I will allow that. But your engineering specification cannot include just that picture. I need to see words. I need to see something that describes, it says step 1, fold here as shown in figure A. Step 2, fold, somewhere else as shown in figure B, or so forth and so on, so something like that. All right, so that is going to be your engineering specification. I'm going to make that due on Friday. Now, some of you are going to say, well, wait a minute, the class doesn't meet on Friday. True, it doesn't. Friday is not a play day. Friday is a work day. You are expected to do schoolwork on Friday, even though classes don't meet there. So I am going to make this due on Friday, even though we don't meet. I'm going to let it be due on midnight, or actually 11:59. So 1 minute before midnight is when I'm going to make it due. So if you want to use the time today, after we finish up our online discussion here, if you want to use the time today to do it, that's good. Or if you'd rather wait and work on it on Friday, I'm okay with that. But you're going to have another assignment that's going to be due next time we meet. So I'm actually giving you 2 assignments today. One assignment is the functional specification, which will be due on Friday. And the next assignment that I'm giving you today, that it will be due next time we meet, which will not be Friday. It'll be Wednesday of next week, because you guys know that Monday's Labor Day. Monday's Labor Day, right? Okay, so Wednesday of next week is the next time we meet. On Wednesday of next week, that's when I need to have the 3rd deliverable. So remember, the first deliverable is the functional specification, which was due today. Second deliverable was the engineering specification that's due this Friday. The 3rd deliverable is the final report. The final report is due on Wednesday. And in the final report, there needs to be 2 parts. Part 1 is the video of you throwing your airplane. Remember, 3 consecutive throws, no edits in between. So you can't throw it 100 times and just pick the 3 best out of those 100. It has to be 3 consecutive ones. Now, if you want to do it 3 consecutive times and it turns out terrible, so you want to, okay, well, I'll throw that one away and I'll do it 3 other times. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. As long as the throws that you submit are 3 consecutive ones. Okay, so in your final report, I need to see the video. And then the other thing is the final report takes all of the other documents and wraps them up together and puts them in one place. So in the final report, I need to see another copy of the functional specification. Even though you've already submitted it today, I need it again included in the final report. Okay. Now, for some of you, it's going to be really easy because some of you did a really good functional specification. You can just cut and paste. But for many, and in fact, most of you, I want you to go back and make it better. For most of you, the functional specification that you submitted today was pretty weak, and I really want to see it better. Okay, so in the final report, you're going to give the functional specification, which is improved, and then also the engineering specification. You're going to submit it to me on Friday. What I will do is over the weekend, I will look at those and I'll give you some feedback. So by Sunday night at midnight, I will have looked at all of your submissions of your engineering specifications, and I'll give you some feedback on what I liked, what I didn't like, and how you could do them better. And so I want you to take that feedback and then include an improved version of your functional specification or of your engineering specification, include that in the final report. And then the other piece that needs to be in your final report is a test report. You need to describe, how did the testing go? You know, the first couple times that you threw it, was it really good, or did you find that the first prototype was pretty bad? And then did you have to go back and revise your prototype? Did you have to fold it more carefully? And, you know, some of you, what might very well happen is that some of you might, after you've thrown the airplane a couple times, you may decide that the design that you chose is just not a good design. And so what you're going to have to do is just throw that one away and go back to the drawing board, which, by the way, is allowed. So let's say that even though you've submitted a design to me on Friday, and then over the weekend you test it some more, and then you say, wow, this design was terrible, I'm going to throw that out and get a new one. That's okay. That's allowed, as long as you submit a new functional specification, or I'm sorry, a new engineering specification, okay? So that when I read the final report, the engineering specification that you include has to match the airplane that you actually threw, okay? Is that pretty straightforward? Are there any questions about what I'm requiring?
When we're making the instructions, can we just make them on Google Slides, or how do you want, like, where should we make them?
I prefer it as a written document. Google Slides is really nice for putting drawings together, and then if you want to do that, I'm okay with it. But after you've got the drawings put together in Google Slides, I prefer you to switch them over into Google Docs. Okay, so I want one document, uh, a typed document like a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word or whatever, not a PowerPoint presentation, because Google Slides is basically Google's version of PowerPoint, right? I would prefer it to be in Google Docs, but it's possible to cut and paste from Google Slides into Google Docs, and it is in fact easier to do drawings in Google Slides than it is in Google Docs. Okay. That answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Any others?
Do we just like say it step by step on how we're gonna build our airplane? Like,
Yes.
do we just? Oh, okay.
I do want a step by step. Step 1, fold here. Step 2, fold there. Step 3, cut here.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is it gonna be the same length as the one we just did?
No, gonna be longer. Gonna be more detailed. Unless now a few of you, there. I'm not going to name names because I don't want any of you to get a really big head here, or I don't want others of you to get too embarrassed. But a few of you, your functional specification was really good. I was very impressed with some of what you wrote. Most of you, I was not overly impressed with, and a few of you, I was definitely disappointed with. Okay, now I still like you, but I was disappointed. Okay, but some of you did a great job, and I was very happy to see what you wrote. Any other questions? All right. Okay, now, today, this class officially goes until 2:10. So that gives us about a little less than an hour. Okay, so I'm going to end the meeting, but that does not mean that it's okay for you guys to play. Okay, for the next hour, or at least the next 50 minutes, use this time to get working on your designs. If you haven't already decided on a design for your paper airplane, so do some internet searching right now. Find a design. If you've already found your design, get to work on writing up your engineering specification. And remember, on Friday, even though we don't meet, your engineering specification is due by midnight on Friday. And then by midnight on Sunday, I will give you feedback on what I liked and what I want to see made better. Last chance for questions. So Dylan's asking me if I've read all of them. Well, I read the ones that were submitted as of last night. Those of you who submitted it this morning, I have not had a chance to read those yet. Okay,
Is the engineering specification just instructions pretty much for how to build your plane?
yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. Okay, more questions. Going once. Going twice. Sold. Okay, I am going to turn off the recording.